For those of you that aren't familiar with Kimberly-Clark, our box is if your body excretes it, we can help you clean it up. And if none of you have fled the room yet, what I'm going to talk to you about is one of the least offensive excretions, those which come from adorable little babies. I'm going to talk to you about our Huggies Mom Inspired program, but before I do that, I'm going to take you on a little imagine this exercise, okay? I've worked in consumer goods for about 25 years now, and this is our process for coming up with ideas, right? Sometimes we send a survey to our target audience, might be a bunch of moms. We kind of, through our survey, ask them what's important. If we're a little bit more advanced in our thinking, we might go into their homes, look at them, see what they're doing, and take that information back to the lab to innovate around. Sometimes we might even sit down with them and do the task with them to get more innovation, to get more ideas to innovate against, and take that back to the lab. But in all cases, right, we're looking to kind of translate the information they're giving us into what we should be innovating on. And really, the Mom Inspired program is changing that paradigm about how we innovate by making them the center of the creative process. Let's talk about where this program really started. It started with a beautiful brand that we have at Huggies. Now, Huggies produces diapers and wipes for moms around the world to take care of babies' bodies. But I think when you examine what the promise of this brand is all about, embedded in the brand's DNA, the essence of what it is the notion of helping moms solve problems. And I think this was the enabling thought at Kimberly-Clark that had us start to go down the path to develop this program. Because if you say, who are we talking about here? We're really, through this brand, trying to appeal to moms, right, who are open to experiencing all those spontaneous moments of joy they have with baby. But frankly, there's a lot of stuff that gets in the way. And as a brand, the big promise is not so much selling them another diaper or another wipe, but it's creating those spontaneous moments of joy and getting the stuff out of the way. Now, one of the things that we realized early on was we can't deal with all of those little problems, right? There are too many of them in the daily life of mom. But we recognize that there were many moms out there that were not only seeing and experiencing those problems, but they were starting businesses and enterprises of their own to address those problems. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to make them part of the brand, part of the process for solving those problems for moms and babies everywhere. So we actually did a little bit of background research on our target here, moms, and we found some facts that were very motivating for us as an organization. We saw that in the US, there were about 6 million entrepreneurial moms in the US. But less than about 3% of all the financial investments that were being made went to the over 10 million female-owned businesses that were starting up. That's quite a discrepancy. And this was despite the fact that women were starting businesses at twice the rate of men. And then we did some of our own customized research, and what we found was that the most significant issue a mom faced in starting up her business was access to financial resources. She had good ideas, she could cobble something together, she could get information from other moms, but if it meant raiding the kids' college fund to start up my business, that was a step that I just couldn't get beyond. And you know what? There's part of that that says this is just wrong. And it's wrong for a brand that's supposed to be working with women to help raise babies to ignore facts like this. So what do we endeavor to do? What we're talking about is evolving our innovation model. If you look at the bottom corner here, right above my head, we've got ideas, we're filing patents, we're moving to creating some business models which create revenue for the enterprise. But what we're talking about here is moving all the way to the right in terms of not doing this ourselves, but co-creating these opportunities with moms who are forming businesses out there in the world today. And really, enabling their success and helping their success become part of our brand and the success of our company. Now, busy chart, but I just want to kind of exemplify to you the change this represents for a company like Kimberly-Clark. And then I'm going to actually touch on a few things that went wrong along the way. But if you look at the left-hand column here, it says customer focus. That's where we spent kind of the 140 years of our history, right? We talk to the consumer, we do innovation for them, but we, Kimberly-Clark, are the innovators, right? We bring the innovations to them. It's easy to control. It's nice and comfortable. You know, we decide what we work on, and we can measure our projects. We've got a stage gate process, and we know when this innovation is supposed to come to market, and it's predictable and it's comfortable. But the fact of the idea is, the ideas are really scarce. You don't get a lot of great ideas working just in this way. So what the Huggies Mom Inspired program does is pushes us all the way to the left-hand side. And what it says is, you know what? It's all about these moms out there. They're the ones that are really doing the innovation. I think, you know, Steve mentioned right at the beginning at the start, how do you define your problem? Part of this program is, we don't even really know what the most relevant problems are for mom. So we will let mom, through submitting to this program, help educate us on what the big problems are for her. And then we'll enable her to solve it. Okay, really different for us. Now, gets really nervous when you're working in an enterprise like Kimberly-Clark, because if you move down to the bottom, it's a process that's impossible to control. We put a few guardrails on this, which I'll describe in a second, but you really can't predict what the next hot innovation is, what stage it's going to progress at. But what you can do is cast a very broad net to ensure that all that great innovation out there by moms is being seen by you and being considered by you. So you really have to deal with some very different paradigms about how to think about this. Now, I always put this presentation together and I never talk about what goes wrong. So let me divert for a second. The day, I swear, the day that I put the first pen to paper on this program, the chief legal counsel of the company called me up and said, "Didn't you hear? The CEO of Kimberly-Clark has said, we're not going to take any ideas in from outside the boundaries of the company." The exact day. A little bit of a problem, okay? And you know, I can understand rationally where he was going from. I mean, with his worldview and his experience base, it's complicated taking world ideas from the outside environment. Think about intellectual property, think about respecting the gift that you're being given by the submitter. It's a difficult exercise. Second thing was, well, the chief legal counsel said, you know, we can probably get him past that, but we're going to need the submitter to sign a few forms before they send their idea in. I'm like, whoa, you know, we're talking about a mom in, I'm going to use Kansas as an illustrative example, from Kansas, who's cobbling something together in a garage, and we're going to have her sign like a 10-page CDA, right? The fact of the matter is, we were actually able to work within the legal department to put together a basic CDA, which now over 2,500 moms have navigated and signed as part of the submission process, which gave legal the confidence to go back to my CEO and say, it'll be okay. We've got some basic stuff in place. And so I just wanted to tell you that because it's not always a smooth path through the organization on this stuff, okay? So we're over here, we're trying to figure out how do we get all these great ideas moms are working on further in the marketplace and brought into solving problems for moms, which is what Huggies is all about. I'm going to skip that for a second and say, so really, 3 or 4 key objectives here for our program. One is develop a complementary source of innovation for Huggies. I think people have talked about, you know, does this put at risk everybody that's working in research and engineering at Kimberly-Clark? The answer is absolutely not. Okay? But the answer is this allows us to get to places and spaces outside of our box which we could never conceive of and never get to as a company. So it's very complementary. It really helps us think about new places to grow the enterprise. Frankly, we feel like we have an obligation to women and particularly moms out there, and we think this program starts to address some of those inequities in the venture capital market. There's stuff in here for mom to help her get some money to move her ideas forward. And then, you know, from a selling our brand standpoint, we have found, I'll give you some numbers later, that we probably couldn't make a better investment in building a brand. Because at the end of the day, what's happening here is that these investments in moms that Huggies is making are being taken by the moms who are benefiting from it, who are becoming the absolute greatest, best possible ambassadors for the brand in the marketplace. And we can't buy impressions like that through any kind of traditional advertising or communications. So, why did we do it as an enterprise? We realized our innovation cannot keep pace with the increasing demands of the marketplace. We needed to change the way we're innovating as an organization. The best innovators always look at the way you're innovating and challenge that and innovate the way you innovate. This is part of our commitment to that as a company. And, you know, the world is moving on and we were falling behind. And part of this program is recognizing that the world is an incredibly complex place. It's foolish to believe that we can measure problems with perfect accuracy. It's really foolish to assume that we can uniquely translate measuring those problems into solutions that moms find compelling around the world. And then, you know, I like to describe it as the democratization of innovation. Innovation is happening all over the place, and we as a company have an obligation to ourselves, to our shareholders, to get involved with that innovation that's occurring outside the boundaries of Kimberly-Clark. So I'll stop and say, this was kind of our thought process, and I'll throw this up here to challenge you in terms of what's your innovation paradigm inside of your organization, okay? So, you know, I always start by asking my question, do I have perfect knowledge of my consumer or my customer's needs, okay? I'm kind of like more over in the no than the yes column, but if you're in the yes column, that's a good thing, get a little smiley face, okay? Another question is, boy, I can see the future of my markets with perfect certainty, right? Remember the great Carn act, Johnny Carson, you know, in LA, I say Johnny Carson. Can you do that? Do you have the ability to predict, right? All the best ideas happen like right down the hallway from my office. Certainly not the case in my situation. And then the one that I always think is a favorite, you know, don't give me any more money and people, I'm rich and all of that. And the fact is, as an innovator, I'm pretty bad actually in terms of picking out the best innovations before anyone else can. So if you've got smiley faces, you're much better than me and probably can tune out on the topic of crowdsourcing, co-creation in this program. But if you're operating with a few frowny faces, I'd ask you to consider this and other experiences you're going to hear about today as ways to address some of those blind spots in terms of the way we innovate. So what is this program? Okay. The program has been running for 3 years now in the US. Okay, we're in our third grant class. We've taken the program to Australia, so Australian entrepreneurial moms are participating in this. And we have plans in place to actively expand it through this year to other places and spaces where there are moms and babies and where Kimberly-Clark wants to do business. What we do as part of the process is we give moms money. Money's important. We give them a $15,000 grant to use as they see fit. Because frankly, I think we're pretty bad at directing them to take the next innovative step. So what we say is, here's $15,000. We'd like to walk on the journey of innovation with you. Let's stay in touch, let's communicate. And then if your idea does mature and you're looking to divest it, we want to be the first in line to be able to consider that and take that idea to Kimberly-Clark. So you don't have to talk to a bunch of our lawyers, you don't have to talk to a bunch of our process engineers, or a bunch of our researchers. You get $15,000, continue down the journey, and let's stay in touch and see if good things happen for both of us. But there's a lot more than just the money, okay? As researchers, I think one of the best things we did was actually talk to the people who were going to form the crowd about what they needed, right? Money was one, but another one was just basic information, right? Basic information about being a small business owner and what that entails, everything from tax to accounting to, you know, you go down the list. We bring that knowledge through a partner of ours into the portal that Mom has and make that part of a piece of knowledge that we build that goes along with the grant. Now, in terms of unexpected things, unexpected benefit for us and our employees inside of Kimberly-Clark. Moms will come to us and say, you know, I'm designing a new package for the marketplace. I don't know much about design. And what we'll do is we'll take a design person out of the organization and we'll put the two of them together and we'll say, let's talk, right? And they'll do some mentoring of that innovator outside of Kimberly-Clark, outside of the organization. And it is the coolest stuff that I've ever seen, okay? Because not only does Mom get a really kick-ass package that does everything that a package needs to do on shelf, but the employee inside of Kimberly-Clark remembers what it's like to be an innovator. They remember what it's like to work in that way versus, well, on Monday I have the safety meeting, on Tuesday I need to complete my expense forms, on Wednesday afternoon I might be able to spend 2 hours in the lab. Here they are, rolling up their sleeves with a real innovator, a real entrepreneur outside the organization. It's motivating, it's educational, and it's refreshing to each and every one of our employees that works with moms who are building businesses outside of our organization. Now, Community. I'd like to take credit for the great work Kimberly-Clark has done in terms of taking this crowd and making it a real community, but the fact is the moms themselves have done that, okay? They have, in so many of these cases, the moms who have had more experience, who are further along in developing their business idea, will reach out to the moms who have less and say, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to go to China. Let me show you how to go into Guangzhou. Let me show you how to set up Chinese sourcing for your particular idea. And the mom who lives in Kansas, who just built one in the garage, can all of a sudden see a pathway to making hundreds and thousands of these for sale in the US because of another mom in the community. Now, this is our website, www.huggiesmominspired.com. I invite you to go take a look. It's got the stories of all the moms that we've granted to. It's got the process for making a grant. If I had the video, I'd show you the appeal that if you know any moms that are in business, the grant period will be closing at the end of this month, so get them to go make a submission. Okay? A couple of things that you would know when you go into the portal, and I think Steve kind of mentioned this too, so when I come back to that is, we're just not looking for the mom who comes out of the shower wet and has an idea in her head. Okay? We actually ask moms to put some thought against some key questions which represent the outlines of a business plan. Okay? Not write a business plan, but have some thoughts about the outline of a business plan. She completes this CDA, because we want to respect her idea. And so it requires some work. But what we get out of it is, instead of 123,000 ideas, we get about 4,000. But the 4,000 have had kind of another generation of thought and attention and diligence put against it by the moms. So here are a few winners. Allison Phillips lives down in San Diego. She has a product called Tilty Cup. Dia Viola's on the East Coast with the Mom Pocket Towel. Amy Baxter is a pediatrician in Atlanta who decided that I'm really sick and tired of my kids saying ouch when I get a shot. So I'm going to do something about it. And she has a little pain release device called the Buzzy, which uses vibration and cold to block some nerve impulses. And you know what? You know, her children, and now many other moms' children, through this program and for her innovation, will no longer experience the pain of injection when they go to a pediatrician. We didn't think of that. We're not that smart. She thought of it, and we were smart enough to find her and help her make that product a success. Now here's the Tilty Cup. I love these kind of innovations, right? Since we're on the USC campus, how do you get beer out of a bottle here at USC? You probably put it over your head, right? And you pop a hole in the bottom of the can, and but if a toddler does that, that's a really bad thing. It gets pretty messy, right? And if you think about Tilty Cups today, that's what toddlers do. They have to tip back the cup all the way to get out the last drop of juice, right? Lisa's laughing back here, this mustn't happen, right? And it spills all over the place, right? They might learn how to be good college students, but in the process, they're making messes. Allison said, there's got to be a simpler, there's got to be a better way. And she just put a little bit of a little wedge of plastic in the corner of a Tilty Cup, so the baby doesn't have to take the cup, but toddler take the cup all the way to the vertical position to get out the last bit of liquid. I feel so stupid when I look at that. I know I wouldn't be speaking here today. I'd be like, somewhere in the Bahamas with my Tilty Cup. The fact is, that mom, Allison, developed that. She has a patent on it. Okay? We have some baby accessory businesses in Korea. We just acquired one in the US, which has a global footprint. And that's the next source of innovation for our enterprise. Now, one other thing about Allison that's a beautiful part of this story is, I've got pictures of her, right? She's in her neighborhood in San Diego. She's getting her first container in from China. She's unloading it into her garage. The next day, the truck for Amazon.com is pulling up, and she's putting boxes of Tilty Cups onto it with her family. It's inspirational. And not only have we gotten a lot out of this as a company, I have gotten a tremendous amount of this out as an individual. And I think that's the emotional part of innovation, that if you can get to in your enterprise, feeling like that about what you're doing or what your company is doing, you got something special going on. You'll go and do something, you'll go the extra mile. And I think through this program, we're starting to make some differences in some lives. And yes, make some money for Kimberly-Clark too. My question for you is, that I'll leave you with is, who's the innovator in your organization? You know, do they look like, in my company, Do they just wear the lab coats and safety glasses? Or do they look like the mom who really understands the problems that she's facing in childbirth and is solving them? Okay, so who's going to be your next source of innovation? Thank you very much.